The market is volatile, the stocks keep going down. Then boom, we hit new highs. Everything is different now, but you don't gotta chase. Don't panic, don't stress. Time to realign, plan it out, invest. It's the First Fruits Podcast. We elevating with the First Fruits Podcast. No time for waiting, time to grow, give back, reinvest like that. Everything you need to know, the First Fruits Podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of the First Fruit Stock Club. Man. Yes, sir. Back at it. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Put together a show for you today. It's been a crazy week as I've been discussing, and hopefully you had a chance to join me. My son is currently playing basketball. He hasn't played basketball in like 3 or 4 years. He didn't like it initially, but he decided. Well, actually, I made a decision for him because I didn't want him sitting around just playing video games all winter. If you have kids out there, you know, and you understand my struggle with allowing them to do other things besides being on YouTube or being on video games. So just recently, we're in first place. We were an undefeated team, and so we were going towards our this is our fourth game. So we were like 3-0. No, I'm sorry, 4-0, and we were on our fifth game. And so at the beginning of the game, right, my son, they have ball requirements in this league. We play in the Elk Ridge league, and they have basketball requirements, right? So, but my son hates the basketball. The other ones that we have, you know, it's a little bit heavier, but they give. And I'm sorry, I actually coach. I'm the coach of the team, and so I coach them coaching basketball now, and so you know he decides, you know, he wants to use the ball. Sometimes the ref will let you use your ball. Sometimes they won't. So this time, this particular ref, he was not trying to have. He said, "No, you guys can't use your ball. Got it." So my son was, you know, started having a conversation with the referee. So the referee gives him a tech. So my son can get into his feelings, but he knows better, right? Than having why are you talking to the ref about the ball? You come talk to me, and I will have a discussion with the ref, right? But my son, being who he is, you know, he likes to take charge sometimes. But he sometimes he has to understand authority, right? Understand authority. And this is very important, you know, just him being a black male also. You have to know the environment that you're in, right? And know that the ref can easily just get you out of the game. Like, and so then he gets his first. So this is like within the first 61st minute of the game. Then he gets his first foul. And then he's already mad about the ball. So then he starts talking about his foul. I didn't foul, and it's so early. I'm like talking to the team. I'm looking at the game, but I'm also, looking strategy, and I'm seeing what they're doing. And I just kind of missed the whole thing. So all of a sudden I know he said, "Tech, get out of the game." So my son gets kicked out of the game. And I'm like, "Man, what on?" I said, "What's the problem?" He said he had to foul. He got the first tech. He had to foul. And I told him to be quiet, and he didn't. So I mean, it was a great lesson for me. I hate to be kicked out of the game because we were playing the other place team. I think the referee was probably being a little aggressive. I'm like, "Come on, 6 or 7." He's just complaining about the foul. He didn't say anything vulgar to him or anything like that. He was just pouting, and he was just, explaining like, "I don't believe it," but he shouldn't have said anything. He should have said the foul, and and came talk to me, and have been over with. But no, he got kicked out of the game. Do I think he deserved to get kicked out of the game? No, I, you know, I don't think so. But it was a valuable lesson for him to learn that, hey, you have to shut your mouth, right? He's at that age. He's 13. Sometimes he can get a little mouthy, and he wants to give his opinion, which is fine. I never want my kids to be muted. I want them to discuss, but I say it's the way you do things, and it's the order of how you do things, right? So so all in all, we end up losing the game, right? We end up losing the game. He's and he's not only not suspended for one game. He's suspended for 2 games for getting kicked out. So, but we end up winning the last game. So we end up moving back in the first, 5-1. And we have a game this week. So it's funny that he gets kicked out of the game. The ref decides, and we play the 2 top teams. That's just funny to me. But that's life, man. And sometimes we have to know the environment, and we have to know what's going on, and we know and we have to sometimes know authority, and and just and sometimes we take an L, and we may not agree what's going on, but sometimes we're not in position to do it. But what does that matter for the stock market? Man, this week's topic is about MLK in the stock market, right? And and it doesn't have anything to do with this topic, but this week's topic is um, in the stock market, and it's important. One of the discussions that MLK had in one of his his discussions that he had, and his gripes about what was going on towards African Americans during MLK's when he was here and was protesting, is that also it was an economic piece to it, right? And he felt that as African Americans, we should be able to participate in the economy, right? Fuller than what they had. We couldn't own property. There was a lot of different things that we couldn't have. But now, today, we have those opportunities, right? We had those opportunities. But yet, we take those opportunities and we look at them as just being consumers. Now that we're able to buy things, we just buy, right? But we don't look at the economics in a standpoint of becoming owners, right? Having ownership, right? And and we decide to go into debt, right? There's statistics out there that says as African Americans as a group, we hold like $1 trillion in buying power. It's like a bit, the buying power is total to some country's GDP, right? In regards to what we can do, right, as a culture. But unfortunately, there's also been statistics out there stating that um, like within the next 20 or 30 years, we will have a negative net worth. Like we won't own any assets, right? I mean, I think that um, there are a lot of individuals like myself, YouTubers, people who are really into financial literacy, and people who want to move the culture forward and not just having discussions. Because, look, I grew up in the hip hop era, right? Hip hop, and hip hop was all about being flossy, having a nice car, and all that stuff. But those things don't bring any ownership, even though hip hop did have an aspect of ownership to it. But it was only a few, right? The people who the puffies and the other owners who owned labels, right, had ownership. But there was an undertone of is it we should look good, right? We should look good and not just be good. But now we have the opportunity to be good. And that's what this show is all about, the First Fruit Stock Club. It's about ownership, right? Owning shares of stock, owning a piece of America when you buy the S&P 500. All right, so before I get into that, let me first do a disclaimer. This information provided in the First Fruit Stock Club podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial, investment, tax, legal advice. The views expressed by the host and the guests are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any financial institution or regulatory authority. Investing in stocks and other securities carries risk, including potential loss of principal. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Always conduct your own research, consult with a licensed financial professional before making any investment decisions. The First Fruit Stock Club and its affiliates do not guarantee any specific outcomes or returns. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own investment decisions. All right, so let's move on to the next. So, look, please, I ask everyone, please like, subscribe, and share my show. Please, I'm trying to get my show, I'm trying to get it out there to more people. All right. It's important to like and subscribe my show. Put the bell on to know, the little bell when I bring a new show or I come live and give you some information. So please help me and shred let everybody know. Look, there's the First Fruit Stock Club. We're trying to get information and trying to move this financial literacy thing forward. All right. So it's real important, okay, that we take financial literacy important, especially on MLK. So look, a few topics I'm going to discuss today. Man, I'm going to go into Davos. There's a lot going on. Before you get into that, I'm going to get into Davos. I'm also going to discuss. I have a this month. I'm going to highlight a African American CEO, right, of a publicly traded company. And I wanted if you knew that this person was African American who was running this company, right? And look, I did some research and I didn't know some of these things, right? So it's important that hey, we should support these companies that took an investment to make an African American, not just as charity, but as someone who put in the work, right? And decided to take that company to the next level. And I'm going to tell you who's it. We're also going to go over charts. Okay, we're going to go over the SP 500, the crazy day today, the remarks from Davos. All right, and we're going to move forward. All right, so look. All right, so MLK's Dream in the Stock Market is the title. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed today at 588 points, 0.64 points. S&P 500 closed at 78.76 points, and the Nasdaq closed up 270.50 points. Man, it was a crazy day. Look what happened. So at the beginning of the day, the market, and there's a lot going on, and I'll go into more in detail. But what happened is in Donald Trump's speech in Davos, right? And I'll go over that. He said a key message that made the market skyrocket because what happens is, and I'll go over I'm going to go over this. All right, S&P 500. S&P 500 also had the same chart, did the same thing today. As you see, it started off low, hit a high, started increasing because the last few days the market was down. The market had been down almost 1,000 points, right? Yesterday. All right. So and you look at the time at this. The Nasdaq also the same thing. The Nasdaq reached high, got some news, hit a low in the market, and then it skyrocketed again today. And you see it happened around 2 o'clock. All right, when the market really started moving forward. All right, so the news. The news is that the World Economic Forum, right, in Davos, right, it's a place where information is discussed and disseminated through world leaders about technology, about finance, about business, about the climate. A whole bunch of different things go on. Top CEOs big time interviews. I always try to watch. I'm gonna go in more detail, but the main focus of this was President Trump's speech. Right, initially had some issues with the plane with the U.S. plane. I forgot the name. Sorry, but had some issues with, it, but finally made it and finally gave his speech. And before the day before his speech, there was a lot of controversy because of what's going on in Greenland. Trump's whole discussion about Greenland, and he feels that the United States should own Greenland, right? For the fact of, he said it's not about the minerals, and I'm paraphrasing, so um, if you can listen to it yourself and get exactly. But he said it's not about the minerals. It's about, basically it's for national security, right? Because it's a clean pathway to our some of our adversaries, other countries, China and Russia. That's what the statement was, and that and everybody was upset because initially, with the market, I'm not saying everybody was upset, but the market took it as the market felt that Donald Trump would maybe go in and try to take over it by force, meaning sending the military in. But what happened is he and the reason why the market skyrocketed because during the speech, he said a key point. He stated that he would not take over Greenland by force. He wanted them to comply and decide to be a part of the United States. And that's what really set the market up because initially people were worried that he was going to go in by force and take it. And the market sees that the market does not like surprises, does not like controversy. The market really is designed to go up. Think about it. People want the market to go up. And I always explain to people the market is a time machine, right? And the time machine moves forward when it has expectations that the environment will be positive, right? But what happens is when the environment does not look like it's going to be positive, it's called it will discount backwards and look at the value, right? It will move back its value when it's excited, enthusiastic, and feels like the market is moving forward, it will compound forward, right? So the stock market is always doing this thing, compounding, discounting. And what drives that, especially right now, what drives it is because um, Donald Trump is a very vocal president in regards to finance and his opinions, which is fine. He's president; he can do say what he want, but he's very vocal about that. And so we always remember that the stock market, communication in the stock market is real important, right? Communication determines the environment. And and if the communication is volatile, the stock market environment is volatile. And you saw, look at the chart, how volatile it was. Um, um, Owners of securities were concerned that the future wasn't as optimistic, meaning that we possibly are going to war taking over Greenland. So it looked at it as a problem. So look at, hey, well, we need to discount the market backwards because if that happens, then we're going to have some problems economically, right? Um, and so that's what the market doesn't like uncertainty, right? So that was the problem. But once he's communicated, right? Remember, the market is about communication. Once he communicated that he was not going to take over Greenland, right? What happened then is that then the market started compounding forward and was relieved, right? And the uncertainty was removed and market skyrocketed. But remember, the market, everyone has stocks invested, and 90% of the people want stocks to go up. Now, there's a few people who short the market, feel like the market is overvalued and want stocks to go down. But most people want stocks to go up, and the market is always enthusiastic and always wants to compound forward. 90% of the time, I think it's a stat like 70% of the stock of the days during a year, the stock market is up, right? It's only a few days, throughout the year where the stock market is down. All right, but that's important. That's important, right? That's important that we do that. So I went through that and the Nasdaq. All right, so look in the news in Davos. So let's look at the top. performers in the stock market, right? Stock market leaders. I do this every week. We see the leaders in the stock market, and these are in the Nasdaq. I do every week. I'll do either the Nasdaq, the S&P, or the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Give you guys some stocks to decide. Lamb Research. I really like Lamb Research. I own this company. It's not investment advice, but I really like this company in an environment that we're in. I'm going to break down probably Lamb Research next week. Uh, uh, and KLA Corporation up 29%. Intel, and Intel is making a comeback, meaning President Trump's one of his companies that he decides that he wants to invest in, and I think we own a portion of Intel, the United States government, into reinvesting in once building fabs, um, uh, uh, manufacturing inside the United States of chips. Applied Materials, AMAT, a company that I really like, and Micron Technology, another company that's been on fire this year. So these are some companies that you should look at. Maybe look at it, add it to your portfolio. But if you really want to break down and you want me to tell you my favorite and why and some prices, then you can join the First Fruit Stock Club. All right, and I'll be opening the club soon. All right. So look, this month I really wanted to highlight some of the top African Americans who are in publicly traded, who are CEOs of publicly traded companies. I want to discuss their performance and how they're doing. So one of the first one that we're going to highlight is Marvin R. Ellison. He's one of the most respected and turnaround CEOs in corporate America, and as a textbook example of operator first leadership. All right. Um, Marvin, and I'm sorry, Marvin is the CEO of Lowe's Company. All right. Lowe's, he has his Lowe's shirt on. He's the CEO of Lowe's Company. I guess I should have put that on. I apologize. All right. So Ellison grew up in the modest circumstances and built his career from the ground up. He spent nearly a decade at Home Depot, where he rose executive vice president, gaining deep expertise in large scale retail operations, supply chains, and store level execution. Before joining Lowe's, he served as CEO of JCPenney, where he stabilized operations during a challenging period and restored operational discipline. Operational discipline is very important. I'll go over that. Performance as a CEO of Lowe's, Ellison became CEO of Lowe's in 2018, inheriting a company that was lagging its primary competitor in margins, execution, investor confidence. His impact has been decisive. Operational turnaround, simplified the business, exited non core international markets, improving inventory flow, and upgrading store execution. Margin expansion, focus on productivity, pricing discipline, and private label strategy, materially improving operating margins, shareholder returns, aggressive share repurchases, and dividend growth, significantly boosting shareholder value. Stock performance under Ellison's leadership, Lowe's market value more than double from pre-market 2018 levels. I'm going to show you a stock chart with that. Cementing is positioned as a premier retail compounder. Culture and leadership emphasize accountability, frontline execution, and leadership development, moving Lowe's from fix it mode to win mode. And let's look at Lowe's chart. So look, he took over in 2018. At 2018, January 2018, I don't know exactly what month, but we'll just say if he took over the beginning of 2018. Lowe's stock was at $100.18. Its recent close as of today, Lowe's closed at $277.11. So it's not just that he's an African American, he has performed. Marvin, Marvin Ellison isn't just a symbolic leader, he's a result driven CEO who transformed Lowe's into a disciplined, shareholder focused enterprise. His tenure is widely viewed as one of the strongest retail turnarounds of the last decade, and a case study on how execution beats hype. And I thought this was great. I did not know that Lowe's had an African American CEO, right? But it's important that we know these things, right? And as African Americans, as MLK's dream for us to participate in the economy and not only just have a job, but to be a CEO of one of the largest companies in the United States, right? Of Lowe's Corporation, right? It's the second largest retailer of home products in the world. So it's just to show that operational execution, right? That's meaning getting all the operations of the company working, right? Showing where, looking at the profit margin, finding out what products are working, what products aren't working, right? Finding out what locations are performing and what he decided to get rid of some locations outside of the country that weren't performing, right? He did a lot of things. And also, when we look at companies, right, and what's called margin expansion, right? So when you have analysts looking at companies, margin expansion is real important. That means that are you driving profitability in the company, right? Are you bringing products, right, to have a higher profit margin, right? Or are you having to discount your prices to bring people in? Or are people coming in for different reasons and they're willing to pay the increase in prices, or you have products or produce products that have an increase in price, right? Real important. So when you're analyzing companies, it's important to look at these things and finding a CEO who can execute, right? It's very important. All right. And also, he had a white label strategy, meaning Lowe's has some of the products where they probably buy wholesale, they put their name on it, and then they sell it retail. And those profit margins are usually like 50, 60%, because what happens is that these companies that aren't under the Lowe's brand, Lowe's has to buy those things at a discount, and then they usually sell them like a 50 or 60% margin, right? Because you don't get the 50 or 60%. You usually have to pay all the expenses associated with the retail. You got, of course, you got theft in the store. Some products don't sell. You got to pay the cost of employees and staff and all the different expenses, rent, and all the different expenses associated with running a company, right? So that tells you if you can continue to grow your margins, right? That means your profit margins, that means that you are doing a great job at executing the company and executing the financial performance of the company. Buying back shares, right? Being on the shareholder side, not just distributing shares, okay? And not just distributing shares, but being fiscally fiscally responsible about what you do with the excess money that you have, right? And those are things you can also take into your own household, right? Are you being fiscally responsible, right? Are you taking your money and reinvesting? Are you taking your money and paying off debt, right? Are you looking at owning shares or owning more of the company? He's buying back shares. That means they own more of their own shares. You can really take this, right, his executional strategy, and put it in your own household. And it's something that I really look at. And that's why I look at analyzing stocks. Not only look at how they analyze stocks, but also look at how can I take some of the things that these CEOs are doing on a high level and take them in a low level in my business and in my household. And it's important. That's the part of MLK's dream that he wanted. He wanted us to participate. But now that we can participate, we have to really also do it on our own, right? We have to make financial, fiscally responsible decisions in a household and not just be all about now that we can, yes, we can buy stuff just like everybody else and we look good, but are we really good, right? Are we really good, right? And it's important that we take being a trader responsibly, investing in the stock market, take it and be serious about it because it's important. It's a part of what a lot of people died for us to be able to participate in the market and not just participate in being a consumer. As soon as you get your check, oh, I'm just going to buy this and buy that and buy that. And we're not being responsible. And what happens is when we just focus on buying stuff, then the economy starts to bully you. And I discuss this all the time. The economy starts to bully you. You right, the prices go up, and you didn't save any money. So now you got to pinch and find ways. When if you invested, right? If you invested and you gave, giving is a part of that, right? Because giving changes your relationship with money, and it also helps you out on your taxes. So first fruits, the whole philosophy, right? The whole philosophy is being fiscally responsible, butchering that word, and buying assets, owning a piece of the country that people died for, right? For you to own a piece, and for you not to own a piece, and for you to just consume, then that's just not. It's against everything that people died for. It's not about just owning shares. It's that people die for you to participate in this country on the level that you can right now, but you decide to go buy the car that you know you can't afford. You got to buy your new J's, whatever it is, right? Your portfolio should be worth more than your car. And I'm not talking about your retirement portfolio. I'm talking about having a brokerage account. It should be worth way more than your car. If you have a car that's worth and you don't have a brokerage account, you're doing something wrong. All right, so I'm gonna end it on that. I thank you guys for giving me a few moments of your time. Man, MLK, right? MLK in the stock market, right? And that's what it's all about, right? And so once again, I appreciate you guys coming out. My name is Donald Green. I'm the founder of the First Fruit Stock Club. Man, being fiscally responsible. First two decisions: how much I'm going to give, how much I'm going to invest. It prepares you for economies like we're in now. All right. So, guys, until next time, be fruitful.
The stocks keep going down, then boom, we hit new highs. Everything is different now, but you don't gotta chase. Don't panic, don't stress. Time to realign, plan it out, invest. It's the First Fruits Podcast. We elevating with the First Fruits Podcast. No time for waiting, time to grow, give back, reinvest like that. Everything you need to know, the First Fruits Podcast. Let's go. Thank you.